Beliefs are at the core of every character. For there to be conflict in your story, there must be opposing beliefs. Ultimately, fictional or not, every human lives by what they believe to be true. When designing your characters, the most important thing is to use every aspect of the film to inform their beliefs. One of these categories we can leverage to the advantage of the character writing is their design. I would argue that with any strong character design, you should be able to show someone your character and they would have a general understanding of who they are just by seeing them. We're going to be looking at the 2021 film written and directed by Julia Ducournau called TITANE as a brilliant example of character design that informs the beliefs of the characters, ultimately enriching the story. TITANE follows a woman committing a series of unexplained crimes until she is forcefully taken in by a father who thinks she may be his son who has been missing for 10 years. It was my favorite film of 2021 and it won the Palme d'Or at Cannes 2021, which is their most prestigious award, much like Best Picture at the Academy Awards. While not divided by an intermission or chapter dividers, I firmly believe TITANE to be a film that is evenly split down the middle, the first part being about taking life while the second half is about giving life. Let's begin exploring the first half of the film to see why TITANE is so great at character design. As the film opens, the first impression that we get of our main character, Alexia, are these metal planks being installed into her brain because of a car crash caused by arguments between her and her father when she was younger. Dysfunction is marked by metal. The film then jumps many years later to when she is on her own and we find her working as a stripper at a car show. Everything about her is objectified and associated with machinery. This even goes further when a flirtatious interest starts to grow between she and a coworker, and the first thing that catches Alexia's attention are her metal piercings. In the background of the first few scenes, we see news reports about a serial killer on the loose. After her performance in the car show, a man follows her outside to her car to try to take advantage of her, but she manages to kill him with her hairpins. This act of killing the man surely alludes to the idea that she could be a dark individual, but it was also out of self-defense, so we can't completely draw that conclusion yet. Alexia continues to get romantically involved with her coworker. They share some moments where Alexia is too rough with her and she seems to hold no sensitivity. She is more metal than flesh in this way, but it doesn't make them split up just yet. Alexia goes to her house to spend the night. In the middle of an intimate moment, Alexia pulls out her hairpin again and murders her. She realizes there are other people in the house though, so she slaughters them all one by one. This, of course, is the confirmation that she is the serial killer. So by this point in the first half of the film, we already understand the metallic, inhumane nature of Alexia, but we should be able to deduce this about her because of the character design before any of these actions even take place in the film. So what do we find in her character design before any of these violent actions start taking place? First, the metal plating. This shows her being held together. It would be surprising if she was mentally stable after having all of this installed. Second, we can notice her hairpins. While we may not suspect it right off the bat, these certainly bring an aura of lethal seduction to Alexia. The third comes in her costuming, where she switches between her edgy leather jacket and her stripper wear. When we think about the elements of a woman that bring attraction and objectification, metal is nowhere on that list obviously, but the juxtaposition between metal and sexuality is off-putting and carries negative energy that alludes to the overall messages of the movie. There's a pivotal scene between Alexia and a modified sedan that begins the transition from part 1 to part 2 in this film. Within this scene, Alexia is cleaning up after one of her performances until she hears a strange noise coming from the car garage. She goes to investigate and finds the modified sedan, which seems to come alive out of its own accord, flashing its lights at her and revving its engine to entice her. Alexia enters the now animated vehicle when its door swings open, and she seems to have intercourse with the car, which then gets her pregnant. This scene is usually the talking point of the film because it's so unforgettable, but it's also where people can get lost. The specific mythology of this is never explained, but I do take this to be more straightforward than you might think for how abstract it is. I think Alexia is afraid of being a woman, or a human in general, and this is the expression of the intercourse she had. It could be interpreted as either something she wanted with a man or that she was raped. But either way, the fact that it is with a car expresses how rigid, mechanical, and terrifying she perceives love to be. This is justified by the very beginning of the film, where it explores the abusive nature of her father, who she grew up with. That is her ghost. Becoming pregnant forces Alexia to become more human than she had ever wished to be. The film expresses her pregnancy to be accelerating at an insane rate to emphasize her fear and wish to escape. This is progressing at the same time that her crimes get out of hand and she is on the run from the police. Chapter 1 wraps up as she tries to run from both the consequences of her actions and the consequences of carrying a child. She tries to give herself an abortion, but fails. As she bleeds because of the pregnancy, she bleeds engine oil, as an expression that emphasizes her fear of the situation. She bandages her stomach to try and suffocate and conceal her swelling stomach. She shaves her head and breaks her nose on the sink to hide her identity. For all of this, she gets arrested and brought into the police station, which brings us to talk about part 2 of the film. Alexia is held custody until a firefighter named Vincent comes to look at her. For the past 10 years, the police have been bringing in suspects who may be Vincent's long-lost son. Vincent holds a moment, but he tells the officer that she is, in fact, his son. It becomes evident that Vincent knew she wasn't his son, but the guilt of being a poor and abusive father weighs on him so much that after 10 years, he wants a second chance, even if it's not with his actual son. This entire second half is about Vincent and Alexia both struggling to break out of their previous cycles of abuse and destruction. The true turning point is this moment when Vincent brings Alexia along on a call and forces her to save a woman's life with CPR. We now have shifted from taking life to giving life. The arc of Alexia is to move from killing to saving lives, and the ultimate version of this is manifested in the end of the film where she dies in childbirth. The transformation is slow and hard, as is the relationship that she builds up with Vincent. Throughout her pregnancy, she unwraps her belly to look at her child and allow herself to be a woman again. She wears a dress for the first time. Through building a relationship with Vincent, she comes to terms with her abusive father and ultimately allows a genuine relationship to enter her life for the very first time. The character design does the heavy lifting at the beginning of the film, but these subtle changes in how she carries her body and what she wears adds to her transformation visually. When the child is born at the very end of the film, we see he has a metal spine. This imagery alludes to the ideas of generational curses and cycles of abuse. You could call it a realistic redemption for Alexia, because while she did save herself, she's still a severely hurt and broken person, and this will carry over to her child. There's far more to unpack in TITANE than I've explored in this video, and I highly recommend checking it out to unpack the rest of its wonderful secrets. But for the sake of this video, remember this. Show someone a visual of your character or allow them to read a descriptive paragraph about their look. With just this, your audience should be able to deduce the nature of your character. From there, intentionally evolve the visual design of your character in a way that mirrors their transformation, in a way that mirrors their character arc. Every single decision in your story should be intentional, so don't forget character design. Thanks for watching this episode, guys. If you enjoyed it or found it informative, like and subscribe for more screenwriting content. If you thought it could have been better though, give it a thumbs down and leave me some constructive criticisms in the comments below. Thanks guys, I'll see you later.